Hey, it's Chris, and today I'm gonna give you my Apple Watch buying advice, similar to my iPhone buying advice video, which dropped a couple days ago, so check that out if you're in the mood. So I'm gonna help you decide between the brand new Series 5 and the older Series 3, because Series 4 is no longer, it's been discontinued, but I am gonna mention it towards the end of the video. Whatever you do, don't forget that you can get the main DailyTekk video content in podcast and clip form. So if you wanna listen on your commute, or if they've banned YouTube at your workplace, then this is a great way to still absorb all your favorite Apple information. So this is gonna be a fairly thorough video, and I'm gonna put timestamps to everything down in the description. So if you wanna skip around to the stuff you're wondering about the most, then you can do that. But we're gonna cover a lot of stuff today, including screens, finishes, sizes, GPS versus cellular, chips and speed, colors, sensors, battery life, thickness, extras, so stuff that the Series 5 has that the Series 3 doesn't, and you're gonna wanna pay extra special attention to that part of the video, I'm sure. I'm gonna talk about the special editions and the pricing. So what's the deal here, basically? What's the lay of the land when it comes to buying an Apple Watch this year? Well, we got two models to basically choose from with all kinds of variations in sizes and colors and finishes. But we got the Series 5, which is new, and we got the older Series 3. Apple discontinued that Series 4, like I mentioned. And here's the thing, what's similar between these is that they're both gonna run watchOS 6. They are both gonna be able to use Apple Pay. They're both gonna run a bunch of awesome apps, which I've covered. If you're looking for the best Apple Watch apps, then check out the links down in the description, or just go right here. And they're both gonna come in GPS and cellular models. But let's get things started by talking about the screens. So whether you get the Series 5 or the Series 3, they are both gonna come with an OLED screen. Now, OLED is good. OLED makes colors pop, and OLED gives you perfect black, dark black. And in combination, those two work really well together. The darks really make the colors pop. And in case you're wondering, the 5's resolution has not changed since the now defunct Series 4. However, the screens on the Series 5 on both sizes are gonna be sharper looking than the Series 3. So why does that matter? We're talking about looking at text and reading it, and it just makes a difference in terms of the quality. For me, when I look at it on the Series 5, it's gonna be really hard to pixel peep and see any jaggedness, you know, in the pictures and elements on the screen. Whereas on the Series 3, if you get to looking, like, yeah, you'll see a little bit of that. And it's not a big deal. It's not gonna change the functionality. It's just, what are you comfortable with? Now, the big difference in terms of the screens this year is that the Series 5 now has an always-on display. And this is like the big deal for the Series 5 in general. It's like the big new feature that everyone's gonna be talking about. So that begs the question, how important is an always-on screen? Now, when I first heard this, and I talked about this a little bit in my announcement reaction video, I was like, I don't know how big of a deal that is once I really started thinking about it. But you know what? In the last couple of days, or however long it's been since the actual announcement, I have looked down at my watch and seen that black screen with nothing on it several times. Like, I was at the restaurant the other day, and I was just talking to people, and I glanced down and I couldn't tell what the time was, so I didn't know if I needed to get out of there or not. Another difference between the Series 5 and the Series 3 is that whatever size of Series 5 you go with, you're gonna end up with 30% more screen real estate than you would get on the Series 3. So does that matter at all? Well, the answer is it's nice. I mean, 30% is 30%. That's quite a bit. If it was like 5 or 10%, maybe you wouldn't notice that much, but 30% really actually makes a difference, and I like that. It just makes things a little bit nicer, a little bit easier to read, and just generally a little bit more enjoyable. The last thing to point out about the screens is that on the Series 5 versus the Series 3, you're gonna notice smaller bezels, and also a rounded corner versus a more jagged, sharp corner on the screen. And you know what? It's just a little bit more refined and polished. And you can use either daily and it's not gonna matter much, but I have ended up really preferring and liking those smaller bezels and the rounded corners. All right, let's talk about finishes, or the casing. And the Series 5 actually has 4 options. Aluminum, or as Mr. Ive used to say, aluminium, stainless steel, the brand new titanium, and the old crowd pleaser, ceramic. The Series 3, on the other hand, just has one option, aluminum. So titanium is the new finish this year. We've never seen it before, and what's the deal with it? Well, there's two things. Number one, it's a harder metal, so I guess it's more sturdy. That's probably good. The other thing is that it's just more expensive. So if you find yourself needing to flex on people and wanting to show off, then titanium is now a new option. Aluminum is back as the entry-level option, and the thing about aluminum is, yes, it's cheaper, so it's not really like flashy or something you're gonna show off, but what it is lighter. It's 5 grams lighter than the titanium version, which actually makes it great for runners or athletes, that lightness. Stainless steel's back. This has always been something that I've liked the look of in person. It's nice and shiny. It just looks really classy and classic. And then there's ceramic. Now, I had a Series 3 ceramic and I loved it. It was white. I'm gonna talk more about colors in a second. But the thing I didn't like about the ceramic, and I pointed this out a couple times on the channel, is that I thought maybe I would trade it in because it costs so much more and really be well on my way to the next model of Apple Watch with the Series 4. Well, that didn't happen because Apple, even though it was in great shape, did not want my ceramic trade-in. So I don't know how that's gonna change or if that's gonna stay the same in the coming years, but it's something to think of. If you're looking to trade in your Apple Watch and turn that into a new Apple Watch in another year or two, you may not be able to with some of the specialty finishes. All right, let's talk about sizes, because that's one of the big decisions you gotta make about an Apple Watch. Do you want the bigger or smaller model? The Series 5 comes in 40 or 44 millimeter options, while the Series 3 comes in 38 and 42 millimeter options. Now, this really is just gonna come down to you and your wrist size and what you're most comfortable with, and maybe your finger size, like depending on like how big of a screen you need to be pressing or whatever, I don't know. But I can tell you that for me, I always prefer like bigger watches. I don't know why, I've just always been like that. So the bigger the watch face, the better for me. In fact, I would take one that's a little bit bigger even than what there is right now. All right, that brings us to the GPS versus cellular debate. Now, my first ever Apple Watch, which was the Series 0, we'll call it, because it wasn't called the Series 0, but it was the original Apple Watch, was just a GPS model, no cellular. I think my second Apple Watch also was not cellular, but by the time I got the Series 3, I converted over to the LTE version, the cellular version. Why did I do that? Well, first of all, this is a tech channel and I wanted to report to people what it was like, was it worth it? But second of all, and I talked about this in a previous video too, it just comes down to like peace of mind and what you want to do with your Apple Watch. So if you want to leave your phone behind, because sometimes it's bulky, I got the XS Max right here because my iPhone 11 hasn't arrived yet, that's a lot of weight to be carrying around in your pocket if you're gonna go for a jog or something, for instance. So if you want to ditch your phone and leave everything behind, but still remain connected to the world, this actually matters, right? If you want to receive messages, if you want to be able to make calls, like if you get into some trouble or something, then it is actually beneficial. Now, on a day-to-day basis, is it something that I use constantly and all the time? That I can tell you isn't a no. Like, I'm not always using the cellular. It's more of a backup thing, and that's why I say peace of mind. Like, I know that I can use it when I want it. Is that worth $10 per month to you? I don't know. That's something you're gonna have to decide. Something else you gotta take into account though is the coverage map, because maybe one of the places that you want to take your Apple Watch and only your Apple Watch isn't going to have coverage for you. Cause like I was up in the mountains the other day, lucky enough to live around some, and it was raining and I checked my watch and I did not have the LTE coverage that I maybe would have wanted because I was on a back trail, right? Trying to get away from the lightning. And so if there had been an emergency there, I don't know that it would have had coverage. So, chips and speed. The Series 5 has an S5 chip, while the Series 3 has an S3 chip. Now, one is obviously gonna be faster than the other by 2 generations now. It's actually 2 times faster than the Series 3. Now, something I found out in my long line of owning Apple Watches every single year since they've been announced is that speed actually does matter and make a difference on the Apple Watch in a way that it doesn't matter and make a difference on the iPhone, for instance. Like, iPhones can come out every year and I upgrade those every year too, and I don't notice like, wow, this is so much faster in my day-to-day usage. I know that iPhone is faster from year to year, and it's like, great, it's faster, but nothing really bogs it down. But on the Apple Watch, And I think you will definitely notice it from the Series 3 to the Series 5. There is a difference in the speed. And so when we're talking about that, we're talking about like when you launch an app, how long does it take to launch? How much spinning are you gonna see before it launches? And it's not a huge deal. You could definitely get by on a Series 3. I love the Series 3 still. But it is a big upgrade for me to be able to launch something and near instantly be able to work with it. Like, that matters. And if you're scrolling through some more powerful apps like the Twitter app that I mentioned or the Instagram app that I mentioned, if you're scrolling through there and there's like media and pictures and stuff and it loads like 10 things at a time, then it has to load some more, that loading time could drive you a little bit more nuts on an older device. So it depends what you're gonna use this for. If you're gonna use it for viewing a lot of media, for playing some games, I made a video on Apple Watch gaming that you can check out, then maybe you do want that extra speed. And heading into the future, if more and more complicated apps are coming out that are gonna be more useful, hopefully so, that's something to consider. All right, next we're gonna talk about colors, because we already talked about finishes and cases, but colors, like, that matters to people, right? You want something that you're gonna be happy with for a long time. Well, the Series 5 has 6 colors: silver, space gray, gold, titanium. Yes, I know that was listed under the finishes, but it's also a color here. Space black, and my favorite of all time, white. The Series 3, on the other hand, only has 2 colors: silver and space gray. So let me just state the obvious. With the Series 5, you get more ways to personalize your Apple Watch. And for me, that's important because Apple Watch is getting so popular now. I see them all over the place. And although I also see a lot of knockoffs, Fitbit, but you know, if you have a bunch of people wearing Apple Watches around you, you want to differentiate yourself a little bit, right? You want something a little bit different, something that says, this is my style. And so it's a little bit easier, a lot easier to do that with the Series 5. So if it was me and it was coming down to like personalization as a big deal in deciding between these, I would say I would try to personalize more through bands, which you can do equally on the Series 5 or the Series 3 since they're the same. They use the same bands, because there's a ton of bands, both Apple made and third-party bands, which we've covered a lot here on the channel, and it's just gonna be a cheaper way and something that you can upgrade later on or as you go. You can start your Apple Watch band collection and just start with what came in the box or whatever you wanted, and then get a leather one later or a Velcro one later or a sport band later, and just kind of build up your collection and really personalize it that way. If you're wondering what my favorite color is, then it's the white ceramic, because wow, I had that on the Series 3, and I'm guessing that the white ceramic this year is probably a little bit different than the Series 3 ceramic, because Apple tends to vary their colors a little bit every year, but there's something about it, like that Stormtrooper look that I love. I love the old Apple products that were like white, even though it was white plastic, and it wasn't as high quality as the aluminum or whatever, wasn't quite as nice. Man, I love the white look. So to be able to get any Apple product in that white, like I like the AirPods, that white look. I would like black AirPods too, but I like that shiny white look. So that's my favorite. Let's talk about sensors. There are a lot of shared sensors between the Series 5 and the Series 3. I'm not gonna mention the ones that are the same because they're the same, but I do wanna mention the big sensor, the heart sensor, because that makes a big difference. So the Series 3 has an optical heart sensor, which is good. It will help you figure out if you have a heartbeat that's beating too fast or too slow, an irregular heartbeat. But the Series 5 goes beyond that with the 2nd gen sensor and an ECG functionality built in. So you can get your electrocardiogram done right on your wrist, and it can help you figure out if you have something like AFib. From the Series 3 forward, I've had a couple of different heart monitoring apps, like Apple's built-in app, and then also some other ones. I think HeartWatch was one of them, and they're pretty cool. They tell you so much data about your heart, and you can see, like, if you've been running, how that changes, or if I've been drinking too much coffee, which I do a lot of. Like, how does that caffeine affect my heart? You can see that. You can really see how your lifestyle is being impacted through that heart sensor data. So it's great to have either, honestly, with the 3 or with the 5. And the 5 is a little bit more advanced, and that's cool. So a quick mention about battery life here. Both the Series 3 and the Series 5 are rated at 18 hours of battery life, basically all day battery life, right? Give or take 18 hours. You're not gonna be up and active 18 hours. Now, There are plenty of times when I have gotten down into power reserve mode, even with the Series 4, which I'm wearing right now. I got the Series 5 ordered. It's coming, so review soon if I did mention that. Make sure you're subscribed. Sorry, YouTube boilerplate. One thing I'm wondering about though, in the battery department on the Series 5 is that since you can turn off that always on display, I'm wondering if maybe you can get a little bit better or extended battery life then without that. Even though it's all optimized and stuff, give you that 18 hours, can you get 18 and a half, 19, 20 hours? I don't know, that's something I'm gonna have to test. I'll also just briefly mention the thickness of the Apple Watch because the Series 5 is a little bit thinner, I mean like a little bit, than the Series 3. And I didn't think that was gonna be a big deal when the Series 4 was a little bit thinner than the Series 3, but it actually mentally made a little bit of a difference to me to know that it wasn't that much thicker. And now it's not that noticeable, but if you're looking, it does look a little bit noticeable. Like if you look at it straight on, like you're like, oh yeah, and you can compare them side by side. Or if you've worn the other one, you're like, yeah, that is thinner. And there's something that's nice about that because thinner isn't always better in the Apple world. Like maybe there's trade-offs, gives you worse battery. But in this instance, I do want a thinner Apple Watch on my wrist. And I could go thinner, honestly, and that would be great. So this is a nice bonus. It's not something that's like a must-have or the main reason to upgrade, but it's nice though. All right, so I'm guessing a bunch of people skipped right into this extras section, and for good reason. There are some little subtle extras that when you add them all up, I mean, you're like, whoa, that's a significant amount of extras that the Series 5 has that the Series 3 doesn't. Starting with the fact that the Series 5 is gonna have a 50% louder speaker than the Series 3. And you might be like, speaker, who cares? Well, it does matter because if you've ever tried to use your Apple Watch to make a phone call before, it's pretty quiet trying to hear somebody. If you're like in a loud environment, like subway station or something, and you're using the Series 3, it may be more of a struggle to hear people and have a conversation if you don't have AirPods or something hooked up. On the Series 5, it's still fainter than it would ideally be to me, but it's much better. It is a big improvement. So better speaker is good. And you know what? If you use that Twitter app from my recommended apps video, which is not an official app, right? Because Twitter got rid of it, it's called J, then you can play videos from Twitter and the sound comes out through the speaker. And it matters, right? If you can hear it. Another nice difference on the Series 5 versus the Series 3 is that the digital crown, this little round thing on the side, has haptic touch feedback, and it doesn't on the Series 3. So if you're scrolling through a menu, let's say, on the Series 3 using the digital crown, you're not gonna get any feedback. It's like almost like little digital clicks from vibrations within the watch. You're not gonna get that feedback, but on the Series 5, you will. Like you'll know when you've selected a new item in a menu, and it's really nice. I like that. It's subtle, but it really is nice. Something else is the storage capacity. So on the new Series 5, you're gonna get 64 gigs of storage versus 8 or 16 on the Series 3. Now I will say this, I have loaded up, I'm a power user, a ton of apps on my Apple Watches, and I have never used up all my storage before. Like games, every app I could find, right? I've not used up the storage. But where this really comes in handy is music. Like if you're leaving your phone behind and you want that music preloaded and downloaded onto your Apple Watch, so you can go phone free, then a lot of storage may make a big difference for you. So that's something to keep in mind. Number 4, we have a compass on the Series 5, not on the Series 3. I don't think a lot of people are gonna miss that. I don't think a lot of people are gonna be buying the Series 5 for that compass, but it is gonna be a difference. If you're like a super pioneering outdoors person, then maybe you're drooling over this compass feature. But yeah, I mean, it's not a huge deal to me. Fall detection is another extra. It's something that you're gonna have on the Series 5 that you're not gonna have on the Series 3. So if you're an older person or you're buying it for an older person and you want that built-in health protection, that peace of mind, like if someone goes down, it can automatically detect it. And there are plenty of news stories you can look up where this has been working, where it's actually been helpful to people, then that's something to consider too. And finally, international emergency calling, emergency SOS. If you have the Series 5 and this is gonna work in 150 different countries and something goes wrong, you don't have to have your phone to make an international emergency SOS call, right? So that's good, we're back to the peace of mind thing. On the Series 3, you can still do SOS things, but it's not international and you do have to have your phone around, I think. Either way, it's just not as robust on the Series 3, whatever the details are. versus the Series 5. Let me take a second and just talk a little bit about the special edition Apple Watches. So there's a Nike special edition and there's an Hermes. I think I'm saying that right. Am I saying it right? It's not Hermes. I think it's Hermes. Check me. But there's two different special editions. So the Nike, it's not all that much more expensive, kind of comes with special bands, and you get a special watch face, which is cool. I like the Nike watch face a lot. It's bold and it looks good. And then, you know, on the more expensive side, on the luxury side, if you really want to show off again, rub it in people's faces, then maybe you get the Hermes. I'm not super drawn to that extra luxury edition. If it's like the ceramic or something, or the titanium, or the stainless steel even, like those upgrades I kind of like, because I like the finishes. But when it just gets down to like more expensive for the sake of more expensive, it doesn't hold any appeal to me. I really have nothing to say about that. But the Nike edition, coming with the Nike app to help you maybe be a little bit more productive when it comes to your exercising and stuff, that's pretty cool. And, you know, I like that one is not out of reach for people. And then you still get that different watch face, which again, I like. So I'm a fan of the Nike version if you like the aesthetics of the band and the watch face. And before we get to the price, let me just mention the Series 4 really quick. I have the Series 4 right now, and since Apple discontinued it this year, this round, we only have the 3 and the 5. I will say, this is gonna be a very great deal if for the next couple of weeks you can find one, because I've already seen some great discounts. So look online. If you don't wanna pay for the Series 5, but you want something a little bit more powerful than the Series 3, then for these next couple weeks, the Series 4 is going to be a really great option for you. And if you don't need that always on screen in particular, then look for the deals on the Series 4, because this is the time. Let's talk about prices here, just to kind of wrap everything up. So the Series 5 starts at the same price that the Series 4 started at last year, which is awesome because we didn't see a big hike in price, which I kind of wondered about. Apple kept it the same here, and that starting price is $399. Now, if you go to the Series 3, that is gonna be starting, and this is maybe its best feature right now, at just $199. So you have to ask yourself, all those extras that I mentioned earlier, that always on display, the extra storage, and all that stuff, is it worth $200 extra to you? Is it worth $200 to be one of the people that can say, I have the latest Apple Watch? Because maybe that's your thing, like you're bleeding edge all the time. Is it worth that $200 for you? On the other hand, is it worth saving $200, starting with, to have basically all the core functionality, runs the same apps, still Apple Pay, all the best stuff about the Apple Watch for $200 less? I mean, that is a pretty compelling reason to go with the Series 3, honestly. And like if you're walking around with the Series 3, a bunch of people aren't gonna be like, whoa, I can notice a difference and you paid $200 less. No one's gonna be able to tell, really, honestly. You can customize with all the bands, put all your different watch apps on there. What I'm trying to say is, Series 5, great. Is it worth that extra money? Series 3, also good, and maybe worth saving a little bit. So for me, I'm the kind of person who does want the latest, greatest thing, and so I did go with the Series 5, and I think I'll be happy, but I will tell you this. I would be perfectly happy living with that Series 3 for another year. No doubt in my mind. Woo! That's it for this video. So thank you for watching. Let me know what questions you have. I'll try to answer those in the next couple days, at least for the first few days of this video. And don't forget, you can follow at DailyTekk, spelled DailyTekk, on Instagram and Twitter is where we're most active. Check out the Clips channel. Check out our podcasts, plural, down in the description. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.